We've spent years doing this show, listening to people, including myself, talk about how many of the races are too long, that it should fit into a nice 3 hour to 3 hour and 15-minute window. That's the NFL model. That's where they should be. We don't need 500-mile races. Anything that is over 3 hours long is too long. But I never thought I would hear people complaining that a race was too short. The Indianapolis race, 2 hours and 9 minutes. 30 minutes shorter than last year because we had one caution early in the race, and that was it. How in the world could you look at a race and say it was too short?
I can't. I mean, especially since it played out naturally, and there was no gimmicks. It's not like they cut a bunch of laps off at the end. This was the scheduled distance, and this is how races play out without a bunch of cautions, and especially road racing. This is road racing at its purest. It felt like what we saw was an F1 race, right? This is what F1 fans see every time they turn on the television because there aren't many cautions. It goes green the entire time. You're in and out in 2 hours, and given the distance, that's what we saw on Sunday. Now, we're not used to that because of this era of stage racing, and this is the first time that we've been able to look. We were one caution away from maybe another 2 hours of racing, right? I mean, if that happens with 5 laps to go and they stack the field all up, one caution, how many more cautions does that lead to? So just fortunate, lucky, or random. I don't know what the word is, but that's just how it played out. It's not like anyone thought going in this was only going to be 2 hours, but if you do the math, without cautions, yeah, this is how it works. It's simple math.
Yeah, you know what? There was one point in the race, I thought, man, this race is kind of going by quickly. But then at the end of the day, I did not even realize it was 2 hours and 9 minutes. It just didn't. And I guess, maybe I'm looking at it differently, but it's also, there was a good battle. And at the second stage into it, on lap 35, then you had McDowell, Suarez, and Chase Elliott, all those top three guys all together running, at the front, and all three needing to have a good day or to win to get a playoff spot. And there was a lot of drama, and then Suarez had the bad pit stop, and that kind of put him behind. But there was McDowell and Chase then. They had that gap, and then eventually Chase kind of starts steadily, reeling him in a little bit. As Michael later said, he was trying to take care of his tires and take care of his cars in case of, like Alan said, there was that restart, with a few laps to go, and then there was another 2 hours of racing on top of that. So to me, because of what I saw on the track, it didn't feel like, man, this is really dragging on, this is really boring or anything like that. I was entertained. I understand if you're not a Chase Elliott fan or not a Michael McDowell fan, maybe you view things a little bit differently. I don't mind. I grew up going to short track races, and I've been to some sprint car races that took 8 minutes. And
exactly.
Now again, you had heat races and a semi feature, so you had a full night of racing. But I've been to some races where it's like a 7-8 minute feature because it goes green and it's 13-second laps on a quarter-mile track, and it's over just like that. So that's just what you get in racing sometimes. Sometimes it's the 2 hour and 9 minute race, and sometimes it's the 3 hours and 57 minute hour time period race. So who knows? I mean, it's just I just didn't have a problem with it, and it just really didn't even register. And again, maybe I'm looking at it differently. But to me, I just felt like it was so many interesting storylines with McDowell and Chase Elliott. What happened to Daniel Suarez, the international drivers, and Shane Van Gisbergen scoring a top 10 in a second Cup start after winning at Chicago, and what the other international drivers did, and seeing what Bubba Wallace could do. How many points was he going to lose, and what was Ty Gibbs going to do? There was just a lot there. So again, maybe I'm just looking at it a different way. And my mind was occupied, and it just didn't seem like it was 2 hours and 9 minutes.
Well, one of the things that I found interesting, and this, keeping in mind, this, Alan, is the first year that we're still awarding stage points at road course races, but we're not stopping at the end of stages. So I've listened to some of these fans this week go, well, it's because if they'd stopped for stages, it would have been better because then it would have made the race longer. Well, wait a minute. So if we'd stopped for stages, what would we have had? We would have had at least 8 laps of caution.
Yep.
Is that, you would have rather had 8 laps of caution than what you got? That was 10% of the race. So it would have added another 10 or 12 minutes to the ultimate time of the race. That makes absolutely no sense to me, that you'd rather watch 8 caution laps than have the race end in 2 hours and 9 minutes.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it doesn't change the length of the race. It changes the length of time. It doesn't change the actual distance. Look, if Chase Elliott wins a 90-minute race, it's the best race in the world. But Michael McDowell won a 2-hour, 9-minute race, so people, they'll find anything to complain about. But look, again, it wasn't gimmicked up. It's not like they cut 10 laps off just for the fun of it right at the end to make it a 2-hour window. This was the advertised distance, and sometimes it plays out that way. It's like baseball. 1-0 pitching, pitcher duels are a lot shorter than 16 to 15 home run barrages, and that's a different length of game. You never know what you're going to get. So I don't know why you complain about one, not the other, what have you. Again, maybe it's who won and who didn't, but if Chase Elliott wins a 90-minute race, it's the best race ever. I guarantee you.